chicken and pickle water, said car wash, conference. It's your boy, small-headed wood.
Anything else?
We're live.
Who's cheating?
No, I know.
Who's cheating? You! What's happening? What is this? Oh my goodness. And your timer is over. Everybody hands off. Brianna. Never seen before win. It's a tower. It's a structure. Way to go, guys.
We're gonna dive right into the reason why we are all here. So I don't know if you guys saw on that banner on the back, you see these two words just bolded, own it, right? There's a reason why I chose to own it. You know, most of you guys know that I've been with the company, geez, going on 17 years. So it's been a long, long time. And I could tell you within the 17 years that I've been with the company, it wasn't always great. I mean, for me, I was always up and down, just I came at the gas station, worked there for 3 years. I got fired, which is really bad. I don't know if you guys know that. I know some of you guys got fired. I really wasn't taking ownership, right? There's a lot of things that were brought to my attention. I would make excuses, not own up to it, and then just blame other people. Well, obviously the owner saw right through that, and they let me go. And I was out of a job for 4 or 5 months, and then I was, the whole concept of own it for me is just owning up to your mistakes, right? I think when we think of ownership, we probably think about possessions, right? You know, houses, cars, I own that, yeah. Really, when I think of own it or ownership, it really comes down to just taking ownership of a responsibility that's been given to us, right? We're all blessed to have a great career. We all have these sites that do phenomenal. It wasn't always like that, especially the early days of Clean Freak. We weren't doing 1,000 car days or anything like that. And I had the privilege to work with Craig, with Mark, with Vince. Oxman wasn't with the company yet. Dan wasn't on the watershed side. Justin wasn't with the company yet, but you had Grondin in the lane selling fast passes, believe it or not. You had Craig in the vacuum bay making sure suction is working, making sure that he's applying the 10-foot rule. I mean, everything. They're making sure that every curb line is swept, every trash is picked up. I mean, I'm seeing ownership live. Like, they're taking ownership of this, this responsibility. And then I see Mark McDowell, and this is funny, and I'll never forget this because this is 14 years ago. But I remember Mark. You know how we all have the chemical room that we could enter through the tunnel and everything like that. I remember Mark just standing in the door, just looking out at the equipment, and for hours on end, I didn't know what he was doing. And I remember, like, man, dude, this guy's staring into space. Like, I'm like, dude, what's going on? So I remember just cracking the joke to Mark, As like, and I've known Mark for a few years now, so I felt pretty comfortable with him. I was like, dude, you're staring off into space, man. What's going on? He's all like, Willie, and dude, it's. No, he didn't do that. But I just remember the passion. And that's what it was. It was the passion that came from him. You don't understand. I'm trying to learn everything about this. We have so much on the line. I want to make sure I do everything, exhaust everything in my power to make sure this works. He was becoming a master of the car wash. I didn't even know that. I'm making fun of this guy, but this guy's actually looking at everything, how the brushes come in, how they fold, how the soap comes out. I mean, he's learning the ins and outs, right? There's a lot of car wash operators that are out there that see a car wash as busy as a military Pat Booker, and they think, I could do that. And it's more easier said than done. I mean, you could, put up the money and build a car wash, but it doesn't mean you're going to be guaranteed. It's not going to mean that you're going to be successful. And they put a lot of time and energy, and I seen what they did to make it work. And I remember there we were doing, and this is me not bought in. we were there and it was slow. I mean, it's really slow. We were doing 9 cars an hour, and I remember them getting excited. Where they're, wow, dude, we hit 10 cars, like, yes, 15 cars, yes. And I'm like, dude, it's just 15 cars. Like, what's going on? Taking ownership is celebrating those little milestones, right? I don't know what it's like to take ownership or own a business like that, but for them, it's a huge achievement. It's small, but it's huge. And to see the passion that came from every one of these guys, it's like, man, it influenced me. It's like, man, these guys care. And that's the thing, if it's important to them, it has to be important to me. And so that's what made me really want to buy in. It's like, okay, I want to show these guys that I'm a team player.
All right, so what can you do to begin taking ownership if you're currently not? Establish goals and objectives. Where do you want to go in your career with Watershed? So I'd encourage you to write these down and then go over them with your leader. Maybe Willie doesn't know that, you dream of being a DM someday. It's going to be hard to get there if somebody's not helping you along that path. Take personal responsibility for your success. It's no one's fault if you don't move in your career. You need to take a long, hard look at what you're doing or not doing as to why you're not moving up. Remember, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Sometimes you need to speak for your work. Speaking, I've never heard the term speaking for your work, but Grondin, I was talking to Grondin, I don't know, it was probably last year. He's like, hey, you need to speak for your work sometimes. You need to let people know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. For a guy like me, a lot of my stuff is done. I know what I'm doing, but Mark and Craig might not know what I'm doing. You guys know what I'm doing because I'm at your sites, but sometimes you have to speak up and let your manager know, hey, I'm achieving this, this, and this. I need help in these areas. So it's all about just communication. Always communicating with your higher ups. So remind yourself why you chose your job. Why are you working here? What do you love about Watershed? What do you get here that you might not get at a different job? Are you working for a company you believe in and have faith that they're going to do what's in your best interest? Willie, Josh, Caitlin, Dan, Justin, who else came from Arizona? Scott. We all had faith that we were going to entrust our careers, we were going to entrust our livelihoods, we were going to entrust everything, basically that we're going to trust that Watershed had our best interests at heart, and that's why we're going to move to Texas, uproot our families. How many miles is it? Like 1,200 miles away? I don't know. It's far. It's 14 hours if you're driving. So we had faith that they were going to do what was in our best interest, and thus far, man, they've fulfilled it, exceeded it exactly, and it's been a hell of a ride. So all right, in closing, I encourage all of you to start today. Begin to own it at work. Half the battle is trying. There's so many resources within your reach to get to the next level of your Watershed career. Resources like Mark, Craig, Oxman, Willie, Dan, Justin, Ever, myself. We want nothing more to see you guys get to the next level, to see you achieve, and continue to achieve success. And I hope that someday you guys are all up here encouraging the next group of people in your story. And remember, every job is a self-portrait of the person who does it. Autograph your work with excellence. Don't be afraid of hard work. It's your hard work that'll pay off. And this is my favorite one. Working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. So find something you love and go out today and be passionate about it. That's all I got.
So that is my career, a very windy path with many highs and many lows, and yes, lots of changes. Change is inevitable. Knowing that it is inevitable We simply need to be ready and be prepared for change. We have to expect it. We have to embrace it. But not all change is good. That is a certainty. But knowing that it's not good, or some of the change is not good, we don't have to fear it. Change can be a curveball. It can demand patience and perseverance. But even in those trying times, there is the opportunity to learn and grow. I often wonder how my career might have been different if I would have been open to the shift in the industry from full serve to express back at that 2007 car wash show. I can't turn back time, but what I can do is acknowledge my ignorance back then so that I am more open to changes in the industry going forward. To wrap things up, I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you to the owners and coworkers that gave me the opportunity to show my value and have a new chapter and a new career. A lot of people, I'm guessing, didn't think I had it in me to succeed. I am blessed that you gave me that chance. I personally believe that blessings are rooted in prayer. And the ideas of embracing change are certainly not new. I'll end with a Bible verse that I think sums up embracing change perfectly. In Philippians, it says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, which transcends all understanding and will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna give you my story a little bit. I remember I was working with H at the market, and shout out to H. I worked 5 years with him, and he's helped me so much as a leader to grow and develop into who I am today. And I remember there was one time I looked at H, and I was a young, I think I was assistant manager or site manager at the time, but right under him, and he was really the guy in charge. I was just kind of the support. And I was asking H, I was like, hey H, we probably had 5,000 to 8,000 cigarettes cartons at one time in this one room, which is, once again, like it's a massive amount of containers or items in one room to organize. And so I one time told him, I said, hey, I think we should do it alphabetically based on the order sheet. Like you had an order sheet, you count it all out. And I was like, what if we make it alphabetically, because so it's so much easier to read, and I go down the list. And he's like, I've tried that. And I was like, I know, but like, I want to try this other way. And he's like, dude, I tried it. And I said, okay, but give me a chance. I want to try it. And he's like, all right, go for it. I spent 2 days working on that cigarette room, and guess what happened? Anybody want to guess? Oh, not one person said it worked? No, you were wrong. It failed. It failed hard. I had to go with my tail between my legs and say, I don't think it's gonna work. And he's like, man, I heard that before. But the beautiful thing, and I really want to highlight that H did, is that he made failure not fatal. It actually encouraged me to continue to think, because that was a process that I felt was broken, and yet I gave it a shot to fix it. But what he did is he fostered me enough to say, you're not dumb. It wasn't wrong of you to try. I did it myself. I tried and I also failed, and now you're there with me, right? And what happened, it didn't shut me down to think I'm never gonna try something to be innovative again. But imagine if H said, you idiot, you wasted 2 days worth of time, and guess what? Can't do that again, or something like that. Something mean, right? Let's say he berated me and just made me feel dumb. I would be like, I am never trying something again. I would literally think like, not gonna do that again. I would maybe even see something broken and say, it's broken, but I'm not gonna do anything about it. But what he did is he helped me foster that, he cultivated that idea that failure isn't fatal. And I wanna encourage you, that's something that's stuck with me for 10 years or so.
Yeah, for you. So now putting yourself in the seat of the one receiving discipline, how are you going to receive that? So there was I'll share a story. I made a stupid mistake, and I feel so bad about it, even to this day. But so this was back in Clean Freak days. I'd been around for probably maybe 4 or 5 years. I was working there at the time, so this was probably 2018, and we were doing these live sessions. There were these classes that you'd have leaders from kind of nearby sites would come together at one site, and you'd have a teacher that would kind of train on either the conveyor and how it worked, or we would talk about preventive maintenance. We had this like incident and customer concerns and incident course, and so I had one of these that was going on that I had no idea about, and this was in Phoenix. And 2 hours north of that was in a city called Flagstaff. It was up in the mountains up there, and there was a location that we had up there. Just happened to be this Thursday. I was up in Flagstaff when I was supposed to be in Phoenix teaching a class. So we had guys taking the bus for like 2 hours that showed up, people driving from all over and planned to be there after hours. And I get a phone call, and I'm up in Flagstaff, and it's like, "Hey, Justin, where are you at? You're supposed to be leading this course." And I was like, "That's next week, right?" And it ends up being, I had my weeks wrong. It was horrible, but it was 100%, it was my mistake. I had it in my calendar for the following week, and I don't even remember who that call was. I think it was Chad called me. And it was just, there was nothing I could do about it. I'm 2 hours away, I'm staying the night up here to work for the next day, and I was like, we're gonna have to just tell the guys I'm sorry, do whatever we can, buy them some dinner or something. But I made a big mistake. These guys were here to learn, and I felt so bad that I messed up. And so, fast forward to the next day, I was still working up there in Flagstaff, and I get a call from Mark, and I'm like, okay, here it is. I knew this call's coming, and so I answer, and I'm like, "Hey, Mark," and he's like, "Justin, what happened?" Total Mark voice. And in that moment, in the moments before and even leading up to this, I made the conscious decision. I was like, I can make an excuse that, I put it in my phone that I messed up, or I'm sorry, make an excuse that I put it in my phone for the wrong day to make it sound like I still had it, but there was a technology error or something. But I made the conscious decision to not do that, and to be the wise man, and to say, you know what, Mark, I messed up. There's nothing I can say. I messed up, and I'm sorry. And and I remember even Mark was like, "Well, thank you." And like that was pretty much the end of the call. He's like, "Well, it's good to know." And there's something about that. But so from that moment, it was amazing, because there really wasn't much discipline. Like, I already knew what I did, but I owned up to it. And if I tried to lie, like, imagine if that were to come back and say, "Hey, what were you really doing?" Like, you always get found out. The lies always come to light. And so I just made the decision. It was uncomfortable, but to say that sentence, "I messed up, I'm sorry," there is no excuse. And that was it. It was done. Like, that was the easiest mistake I've ever made. So there's some good that comes from that. So, and then from that point too, I got with guys like Oxman, Vince, H, of just like saying, "Hey, how can I get better with my time and organization, my planning? How do you guys do it? What do you?" And so to be able to use a mistake that I made to get better, and so I personally got better because of that situation. So, but it's that conscious choice. It's crazy. So yes, all of us, we can all learn from our past mistakes. We can learn from our current mistakes. We can learn from our future mistakes. And I think it's a mindset shift, is taking ownership when you do make the mistakes. Don't be the fool. I think ultimately what we have to do is recognize that it's a choice. And are we going to choose to love discipline and use it with our teams? Or are we going to choose to run from it and hide and deflect and blame? But learn to love it, guys. It's the best thing you can do. So that's all I got.
Better me. I learned that the goal of life, there's lots of goals of life, but I think this might be the biggest one, that the goal of life is to learn to love the same way that God loves us. The way we start to love that way is through sacrifice. The greatest way to love is through sacrifice. It's called agape love. It's what God did for us. I was going to say something there. Oh yeah, Jesus said there's no greater love than this. This is his out of his own mouth. There's no way to love better than this. Guess what his answer was? You want to know? Go ahead.
No, I want to know.
Okay. So there's no greater love in the world than this. And by the way, what is love was the most Googled question 5 or 6 years ago on Google. So people want to know what love is. And I just love the way that Jesus answered that there's no greater love than this, that somebody should lay down his life for another. So the greatest way that you can love somebody is that you go in front of them and die for them. Is that crazy? I don't know if I could do that. But that's the greatest way we can love. And that's sacrifice, right? Because you just now sacrificed your own life for someone else. Anyway, that's what God said he did for us. That's pretty cool. What does sacrifice mean? It means that something's going to die for something of greater value. So the question is, what will you sacrifice in your life so that you can become greater? Right? Because you're going to love the best way, you have to sacrifice something. So to the degree that you sacrifice, the more you'll be equipped to love. So what are some things, right? You heard about my list of sacrificing, because I sacrificed all that Mark desired, a lot of what Mark desired then, and I'm still doing it today. I'll give you one example. But I sacrificed, right, having free sex. I sacrificed getting drunk. I sacrificed snorting cocaine. I sacrificed trying to get all the world had to offer. There's some things I sacrificed, right? Those things felt good for a while. And number 2, I guess before I say number 2 is we get to make the choice about what we sacrifice. There's a million ways that we can sacrifice yourself to become a greater person. Number 2, it's to become a sanctified moral being, right? I truly believe that being a human, we are under an obligation to be morally sanctified. Sanctified is a big old pretty word for meaning to be declared holy, to be pure, to clean up. I had a lot to clean up in my life at 26 years old, and I was so dirty. So I believe that all humans have a moral obligation to become pure. And so that's what sanctification is. I'm on a journey of just trying to become more clean. I want to be a guy that people can trust. I want to be, and I fail, but I'm trying, right? I'm working on it. It's consciously in my mind. And both of these two things, right? Learning how to love like God and becoming a sanctified being, that takes a lifetime, doesn't it? If you don't have it, the train will never arrive. The last thing I just gave up, trying to become a better person, was last week. And it was something I was doing for close to 20 years. And I just gave it up. It's Facebook for me. Facebook was taking me away from my greatest potential of who Mark is. I was starting to lust on it. You know, they know what you like to see. I started to waste a lot of time. I like to get in the morning. I like to do my quiet time, pray for people. I like to get in God's Word. I was finding that part of that regimen before those two things was Facebook. I'm like, what the hell are you doing, Mark? Come on. So that's what I did the past week. I'm sacrificing Facebook and that comfortable feeling that I get from seeing what other people are doing. I don't know what it fulfilled in me, but it had to go. And guess what? But as you lay something down, as you sacrifice something, there's something else to be sacrificed. But God's gracious, man. He doesn't rip the curtain open and show you how freaking disgusting you are all at once. He opens it a little bit and you take care of the things that you need to take care of that are in front of your face, and then he opens the curtain a little more and you just keep going all the way through life. But that keeps you fighting against the current and becoming that old, cantankerous, shallow person, right? So, we're done, but today, man, I hope you guys feel motivated to do something that will change. But guess what the problem with motivation is? If you don't deal with motivation, through action, then guess what's going to die? Guess what will die? You. The motivation. Yeah, then you will too, right? Because there's no change. You know, remember, to become the best person who you are, you have to sacrifice. So, the point is, don't let motivation die. Put some action into your life. That's why you need to become disciplined, because discipline will carry you when you're unmotivated. That's what discipline's all about. Guess what discipline is rooted in? Anybody know what discipline is rooted in? We've been talking about it. Justin was talking about a runner today. Remember, what is he giving up? What's the word? He's giving up something, right? To become the greatest runner of all time. He's giving up time with his family. He's giving up jelly donuts. He's giving up alcohol. So discipline is rooted in sacrifice. And the scariest thing for people to do is sacrifice. We don't like to die. Because does dying feeling good? Does dying feel good? No, when I let go of something that I love, but I know that isn't good for me, but I still let go of it because I know it's not good for me, it hurts. Sacrifice doesn't feel good. But know that you're on the right track if you're sacrificing some things in your life. That's a good thing, and it'll help you be motivated when there's no motivation there. That makes sense? Oh, it's clear as mud or crystal clear? Thanks, you guys.